October 24th, 1942. Guadalcanal, Solomon Islands. A place that would become known as the Island of Death. Gunnery Sergeant John Basilone sat behind two Browning M 1917 water-cooled machine guns on a ridge called Bloody Ridge. His position overlooked a narrow jungle pass that Japanese forces would have to cross to reach Henderson Field, the airstrip that both sides were willing to die for. Basilone had 15 Marines with him, 2 machine guns, limited ammunition, and intelligence reports saying a Japanese regiment, 3,000 soldiers, was coming straight at his position. The math was simple and terrifying. 16 Americans versus 3,000 Japanese. If the Japanese broke through, Henderson Field would fall. If Henderson Field fell, Guadalcanal would fall. If Guadalcanal fell, the entire Pacific offensive would collapse. For the next 48 hours, John Basilone would fight without sleep, without relief, and eventually, without most of his men. He would fire his machine guns until the barrels glowed red hot and had to be changed with bare hands. He would kill so many Japanese soldiers that their bodies piled up in front of his position like sandbags. He would hold that ridge against wave after wave of desperate attacks. And when the smoke cleared, over 2,000 Japanese soldiers would be dead. Basilone's machine guns had killed most of them. This wasn't just heroism. This was one man deciding that a ridge would not fall, and then making that decision reality through sheer violence and willpower. But here's what makes John Basilone's story different from every other Medal of Honor recipient. After Guadalcanal, the Marine Corps brought him home, made him a hero, sent him on war bond tours, offered him a commission as an officer, offered him a training job stateside where he'd be safe. Basilone turned it all down. "I'm a plain Marine," he said. "I belong back with my boys." In February 1945, Basilone returned to combat. This time, Iwo Jima. And this time, he wouldn't come home. This is the story of Manila John the Marine, who could have sat out the war as a celebrity, but chose to die with his brothers instead. The man before the legend. John Basilone was born November 4th, 1916, in Buffalo, New York. Italian-American family, one of 10 children. Working-class neighborhood where everyone knew everyone. Early life. Father was a tailor, barely making ends meet with 10 kids. John quit school after 8th grade to help support family. Worked as a caddy at a local golf course. Got into street fights regularly. He was good at it. Joined the Army at 18, 1934, looking for steady pay and adventure. First Military Service Army, 1934 to 1937. Basilone's first tour was in the Philippines, stationed in Manila. This is where he got his nickname Manila John, partly because of his service there, partly because he loved the city and talked about it constantly. Army service taught Basilone discipline and military structure, how to shoot. He became expert marksman, how to handle the M 1917 machine gun. This skill would save his life on Guadalcanal, that he actually loved military life. After 3 years, Basilone left the Army in 1937, but civilian life didn't suit him. He worked odd jobs, truck driver, factory worker, but nothing felt right. Joining the Marines, 1940. In July 1940, Basilone enlisted in the Marine Corps. Why switch from Army to Marines? Basilone's answer: the Marines are the best. I wanted to be with the best. What the Marines saw: a 24-year-old former Army soldier with machine gun experience. Exactly what they needed. What they didn't see yet: one of the deadliest combat Marines who had ever served. Physical description: height, 5'8" average for the era. Weight, 185 pounds, muscular, strong. Appearance, dark hair, dark eyes, movie star handsome. Seriously, women loved him. Personality, friendly, easygoing, loved gambling and drinking with his buddies. Reputation, tough street kid from Buffalo, who could handle himself in a fight. Training and deployment. Basilone trained at Paris Island, then advanced infantry training at Camp Lejeune. His Army experience meant he was already ahead of most recruits. Promoted to corporal, then sergeant. Assigned to weapons company machine guns. The perfect fit for his skills. When war came after Pearl Harbor, Basilone was assigned to 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division. Destination: Pacific Theater, Guadalcanal, the Island of Death. August the 7th, 1942. The 1st Marine Division landed on Guadalcanal in the Solomon Islands. This was America's first major offensive operation in the Pacific. The mission: capture Henderson Field airstrip and deny it to the Japanese. The situation: Guadalcanal was hell. Dense jungle filled with disease, malaria, dysentery, dengue fever, oppressive heat and humidity, limited supplies. Everything had to be shipped in. Japanese forces determined to retake the island. Constant air and naval bombardment to safe areas everywhere was a potential combat zone. The Marines captured Henderson Field in the initial landing, but holding it was another matter. The Japanese were determined to retake the airfield and were sending reinforcements. By October 1942, the situation was critical. Japanese forces were massing for a major offensive. Intelligence indicated they were preparing to attack in overwhelming force. Bloody Ridge, October 24th, 26, 1942. The Japanese plan was simple. Mass infantry assault on the ridge positions south of Henderson Field. Break through the Marine lines. Overrun the airfield. Retake Guadalcanal. The Japanese force, approximately 3,000 soldiers from the Sendai Division, elite Japanese troops, the American defense, scattered Marine positions, undermanned and undersupplied. Gunnery Sergeant John Basilone commanded a machine gun section, 2 guns. 15 Marines positioned on a ridge that would become known as Bloody Ridge. October 24th, 1942. Night, the attack begins. 11 p.m. Japanese artillery bombardment begins. Shells rain down on Marine positions. This is preparatory fire, softening up defenses before the infantry assault. Basilone ordered his men to stay in their foxholes. The machine guns were already positioned. No point exposing themselves during the bombardment. 11:30 p.m. Artillery stops. Ominous silence. Then, from jungle, screaming. Hundreds of voices yelling, "Banzai!" The Japanese battle cry. The infantry assault had begun. Basilone peered through the darkness. He could see movement. Lots of movement. Japanese soldiers emerging from the jungle, charging up the ridge. Wait for it, Basilone told his machine gunners. Wait until they're close. Don't waste ammunition. 11:35 p.m. Japanese soldiers were 50 yards away. Close enough. Open fire. Both machine guns erupted. The M1917 machine gun fires .30, 06 rounds at 450, 600 rounds per minute. In the darkness, the muzzle flashes looked like fireworks. Japanese soldiers fell in rows, but more kept coming, wave after wave emerging from the jungle. The first hour, 11:30 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. Basilone and his gunners poured fire into the advancing Japanese. Machine guns were devastatingly effective at close range. A single burst could kill or wound multiple soldiers. But there were problems. Problem 1, ammunition. Machine guns eat ammunition. At 500 rounds per minute, the guns could burn through their entire supply in under an hour of continuous firing. Basilone had ammunition bearers bringing boxes of belted ammo forward, but they couldn't keep up with the rate of fire. Problem 2, barrel overheating. The M1917 is water-cooled. A jacket of water surrounds the barrel to keep it from overheating. But even with water cooling, sustained fire would boil the water and overheat the barrel. Basilone could see steam rising from both guns. The barrels were getting dangerously hot. Problem 3, casualties. Japanese return fire was finding targets. 3 of Basilone's Marines were already wounded. 1 of his gunners was killed by a grenade. Problem 4, the Japanese kept coming. For every 10 Japanese soldiers killed, 20 more appeared. They were attacking in human waves, a tactic designed to overwhelm defenses through sheer numbers. By 12:30 a.m., Basilone realized, this wasn't a probe. This was a full-scale assault meant to break through no matter the cost. The second hour, 12:30 a.m. to 1:30 a.m., one of the machine guns jammed. Malfunction caused by overheating and sustained fire. Basilone left his position, ran through Japanese fire to the jammed gun, and cleared the malfunction. Took him less than a minute. He knew these guns intimately. Back to firing. Japanese soldiers reached the Marine wire, barbed wire defenses. They were cutting through it, getting closer. Basilone threw grenades. Other Marines threw grenades. Explosions lit up the night. Japanese soldiers were now 20 yards away. Basilone fired controlled bursts from his machine gun. At this range, he could see the faces of the men he was killing. Young men, probably scared, following orders to attack a position they had to know was suicide. He killed them anyway. This wasn't personal. This was war. The third hour, 1:30 a.m. to 2:30 a.m. The second machine gun's water jacket was hit by Japanese fire. Water poured out. Without cooling water, the gun would overheat and become useless within minutes. Basilone ordered the gunner to keep firing in short bursts while he found a solution. He grabbed a damaged water can,
ran to a nearby stream, under fire, filled it, ran back, and refilled the water jacket. The gun stayed in action. But ammunition was now critically low. Basilone sent runners back to supply points to get more ammunition. The runners had to cross 300 yards of jungle under Japanese fire. One runner was killed. Another made it through and returned with ammunition boxes. The fourth hour, 2:30 a.m. to 3:30 a.m. One of Basilone's machine guns suffered a catastrophic barrel failure. Overheating from sustained fire caused the barrel to warp. The gun was now useless. Basilone was down to one machine gun, but that wasn't the worst problem. The worst problem? The first machine gun's barrel was also failing. It was glowing, red hot. Basilone could see it in the darkness. The barrel needed to be changed immediately or it would fail too. Changing a barrel requires 1. Releasing the barrel lock 2. Removing the hot barrel. It weighs about 10 pounds and is literally glowing red 3. Installing a fresh barrel 4. Locking it in place 5. Testing the gun. Standard procedure. Wait for the barrel to cool. Use heat-resistant gloves to handle it. Basilone didn't have time to wait. Japanese soldiers were 15 yards away. If the gun stopped firing, they'd overrun the position. Basilone released the barrel lock and pulled out the red-hot barrel with his bare hands. Let me repeat that. He grabbed a glowing red-hot machine gun barrel with his bare hands. The flesh on his hands immediately burned. Witnesses later said they could smell burning skin. Basilone ignored the pain, threw the hot barrel aside, grabbed a fresh barrel, installed it, and resumed firing. All in under 30 seconds. His hands were severely burned, 2nd and 3rd degree burns on both palms and fingers. He wrapped them in cloth torn from his shirt and kept fighting. The 5th hour, 3:30 a.m. to 4:30 a.m. By 4 a.m., Basilone had only 5 Marines left in fighting condition. 10 were wounded or killed. His single-functioning machine gun was running low on ammunition again. Basilone personally made ammunition runs running through Japanese fire to supply points, grabbing ammunition boxes, running back. On one ammunition run, Basilone encountered 3 Japanese soldiers who had infiltrated the Marine lines. He killed all 3 with his pistol close range in darkness, while carrying 2 ammunition boxes. The 6th hour, 4:30 a.m. to 5:30 a.m. The Japanese assault began to weaken, not because they were giving up, because they were running out of men. Bodies were piled 3 deep in front of Basilone's position. The ridge was carpeted with dead Japanese soldiers. Blood soaked the ground. Basilone's remaining Marines were exhausted. Many were wounded. Basilone himself had been grazed by bullets multiple times, but kept fighting. 5:30 a.m. dawn. Daylight revealed the carnage. Over 2,000 Japanese soldiers lay dead on and around Bloody Ridge. Basilone's 2 machine guns had killed most of them. The Japanese offensive had failed. Henderson Field was safe. Guadalcanal would remain in American hands. The cost of Basilone's original 15 Marines. 8 killed, 5 wounded, including Basilone. 2 uninjured. Basilone himself, severe burns on both hands. Multiple bullet grazes, exhaustion, and dehydration, had not slept in 48+ hours. The citation for his actions on Bloody Ridge. John Basilone was awarded the Medal of Honor. The citation read, "For extraordinary heroism and conspicuous gallantry in action against enemy Japanese forces, above and beyond the call of duty while serving with the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division, at Guadalcanal, Solomon Islands, on October 24th, 25, 1942. While the enemy was hammering at the Marines' defensive positions, Sergeant Basilone, in charge of 2 sections of heavy machine guns, fought valiantly to check the savage and determined assault. In a fierce frontal attack with the Japanese blasting his guns with grenades and mortar fire, one of Sergeant Basilone's sections with its gun crews was put out of action, leaving only 2 men able to carry on. Moving an extra gun into position, he placed it in action. Then, under continual fire, repaired another and personally manned it, gallantly holding his defensive position. Boldly charging into hostile positions, Sergeant Basilone brought back urgently needed shells for his gunners, thereby contributing in large measure to the virtual annihilation of a Japanese regiment. What the citation doesn't say, that Basilone changed a red-hot barrel with his bare hands, that he made multiple ammunition runs through enemy fire, that he killed 3 Japanese infiltrators in close combat, that he fought for 2 days without sleep,
that he commanded his position even after most of his men were casualties. Coming home, the war bond tour. After Guadalcanal, the Marine Corps brought Basilone back to the United States. He was a hero, the first enlisted Marine to receive the Medal of Honor in World War II. The Marine Corps put Basilone on a war bond tour. His job, travel around America, appear at rallies, sell war bonds, inspire Americans to support the war effort. The tour. Cities across America, massive rallies with thousands of attendees. Celebrity status people recognized him everywhere. Women loved him. He was handsome and a hero. Money poured in his appearances helped raise millions for war bonds. The offers. Because of his celebrity status, Basilone received offers, officer commission. The Marines offered to make him an officer. He could become a lieutenant, train recruits stateside, and never see combat again. Training position. He could stay stateside as a gunnery instructor, teaching new Marines about machine guns. Permanent war bond tour. Keep traveling, giving speeches, being a celebrity. Safe, comfortable, honored. Basilone's problem. He hated it. All of it. In interviews later, Basilone explained, "I felt like a fraud. I was standing on stages getting applause while my buddies were still fighting and dying. The war wasn't over. Marines were dying every day. And I was selling war bonds, the woman." During the war bond tour, Basilone met Lena May Riggy, a Marine sergeant working at Camp Pendleton. She was beautiful, smart, and understood military life. They fell in love, got engaged in June 1944, planned to marry after the war. Lena begged Basilone to stay stateside. They could marry, he could take a training position, they could have a life together. Basilone seriously considered it. He was 27 years old. He'd done his part. He'd earned the Medal of Honor. He could stay home with a clean conscience. The decision. August 1944. Basilone requested to return to combat duty. The Marines tried to talk him out of it. "You've done enough. You're more valuable here. You don't need to prove anything." Basilone's response. "I'm a plain Marine. I belong back with my boys. The war's not over. Marines are still dying. I should be there." The Marines tried one more time. "You could die." "You know that, right, Basilone? We all could die. That's why I need to be there." He married Lena on July 10th, 1944, at St. Mary's Star of the Sea Church in Oceanside, California. 10 days later, he shipped out for the Pacific. Their marriage lasted 10 days before he left. Lena never saw him again. Iwo Jima, February 19th, 1945. Iwo Jima was supposed to be a quick operation. Land, seize the island, move on. Intelligence estimated it would take a few days. It took 36 days and became one of the bloodiest battles in Marine Corps history. The island, 8 square miles of volcanic rock, heavily fortified, 22,000 Japanese defenders in tunnels and bunkers. 3 airfields, the strategic objective, Mount Suribachi, dormant volcano, 556 feet high. Terrain, volcanic ash, few natural cover positions. Japanese defense, the Japanese commander, General Tadamichi Kuribayashi, had transformed Iwo Jima into a fortress. 11 miles of interconnected tunnels, hundreds of bunkers and pillboxes, artillery positions in caves, orders to fight to the death, no surrender. D-Day, February 19, 1945. Basilone was assigned to C Company, 1st Battalion, 27th Marines, 5th Marine Division. He was a machine gun section leader, the same role he'd had at Guadalcanal. 7 a.m., naval bombardment begins. Battleships and cruisers pound the island. 8:59 a.m., bombardment lifts. Marines prepare to land. 9 a.m., first wave hits the beaches. Basilone's unit was in an early wave. The problem. The beaches of Iwo Jima weren't sand. They were volcanic ash. Landing craft couldn't get traction. Marines jumped off the landing craft and immediately sank up to their knees in the black ash. They tried to run up the beach. Couldn't. The ash was like running through deep snow or quicksand. And while they struggled, Japanese defenders opened fire from concealed positions. Basilone's landing craft hit the beach around 9:15 a.m. He jumped off carrying his machine gun and ammunition, immediately sank in the ash. Around him, Marines were being hit. Machine gun fire from Japanese positions cut through the struggling men. Mortars exploded in the ash, throwing black clouds into the air. Basilone shouted orders. "Keep moving. Get off the beach. Find cover." There was no cover, just ash. and men dying. Moving inland, Basilone's unit pushed inland from the beach. Every yard was a fight. Japanese defenders fired from hidden bunkers and pillboxes. Marines had to assault each position individually. Basilone led from the front. His job, suppress enemy positions with machine gun fire so riflemen could advance. He set up his gun, fired at a Japanese bunker, suppressed it. Marines advanced. Moved to next position, repeated. The blockhouse. Around 10:30 a.m., Basilone's unit encountered a major obstacle. A reinforced concrete blockhouse with thick walls and gun ports. Inside, multiple Japanese machine guns covering the beach approach. This blockhouse was stopping the entire advance. Marines couldn't get past it. The Japanese fire was too heavy. Basilone assessed the situation. The blockhouse had to be destroyed. Artillery would be too slow. They needed it done now. Basilone told his men, "Cover me. I'm going to flank it." The last attack, Basilone, along with several Marines, moved to flank the blockhouse. They crawled through the ash, using what little cover existed. Japanese defenders spotted them. Machine gun fire kicked up ash around them. Basilone reached a position where he could throw grenades at the blockhouse. He pulled pins, threw grenades through the gun ports. Explosions. Japanese fire slackened. Basilone stood up to throw another grenade. A Japanese mortar round exploded nearby. Shrapnel hit Basilone in the neck and chest. He fell. 10:45 a.m., John Basilone was killed in action. He was 28 years old. He had been on Iwo Jima for less than 2 hours. What happened next? Well, the Marines near Basilone saw him fall. One tried to reach him. Japanese fire drove him back. They couldn't recover his body for several hours. When they finally did, Basilone was dead from shrapnel wounds. His body was evacuated to a field hospital, then to a ship, then eventually back to the United States. The reaction. When news reached the United States that John Basilone had been killed, the nation mourned. He was a celebrity, a hero, a Marine who'd come home and then volunteered to go back. Lena Basilone received the news on February 21st, 1945. She had been married to John for 7 months. They'd spent 10 days together as husband and wife. She never remarried. For the rest of her life, she died in 1999 at age 86. She honored John's memory. She never spoke publicly about their marriage except to say, "We had 10 perfect days." That was more than many people get. The second medal. For his actions on Iwo Jima, particularly his leadership and the assault on the blockhouse, John Basilone was posthumously awarded the Navy Cross, the second highest award in the Navy Marine Corps, after the Medal of Honor. John Basilone became the only enlisted Marine in World War II to receive both the Medal of Honor and the Navy Cross. The legacy. John Basilone represents something important in military history. The soldier who could have stopped but chose to continue. He'd earned the Medal of Honor. He'd done his part. He could have stayed home, married Lena, lived a long life, and no one would have questioned his honor or courage. But he went back, because his brothers were still fighting, because the war wasn't over, because he was a Marine. And Marines don't quit while there's still fighting to be done. The cost of that choice. Basilone died on Iwo Jima. His death was unnecessary in the sense that he didn't have to be there. He chose to be there. Did that choice matter? Did his presence on Iwo Jima make a difference? Statistically, maybe. Maybe not. The Marines took Iwo Jima with or without Basilone. Symbolically, absolutely. Basilone's decision to return to combat inspired countless Marines. If Manila John, the Medal of Honor recipient who could have stayed home, chose to go back then, every Marine knew their cause was worth fighting for. The memorials, USS Basilone, DD 824, destroyer named in his honor, Basilone Road, main road at Camp Pendleton named for him, Basilone Memorial Bridge in New Jersey, annual Basilone Parade, Raritan, New Jersey, his hometown, statue, Raritan, New Jersey, HBO's The Pacific, 2010. John Sader portrayed Basilone, the numbers, Guadalcanal, October 24th, 25, 1942. Japanese attackers, approximately 3,000 Japanese killed. Approximately 2,000, most by Basilone's machine guns. Hours of continuous fighting. 48 plus Marines in Basilone's section. 15 casualties in Basilone's section. 13 killed or wounded. Result, held position, stopped Japanese offensive. Iwo Jima, February 19th, 1945. Time on island before death. Approximately 2 hours, blockhouses destroyed. At least one result, killed in action. Total decorations, 1. Medal of Honor, Guadalcanal, 2. Navy Cross, Iwo Jima, 3. Purple Heart, 4. Presidential Unit Citation, 5. Various campaign medals. The question, should Basilone have stayed home? Arguments for yes. He'd done his part. He had a wife who loved him. He could have trained thousands of Marines. His celebrity status was valuable for morale. One man doesn't change the outcome of a war. Arguments for no. His presence inspired other Marines. He was exceptionally skilled in combat. He saved lives through his leadership. He lived by the values he represented. Once a Marine, always a Marine. Basilone's answer. In his last letter to Lena, written before the Iwo Jima invasion, Basilone wrote, "I know you wanted me to stay home. I know I could have. But I couldn't live with myself if I stayed safe while other Marines died. These are my brothers. This is my family. I belong with them. If something happens to me, know that I was where I wanted to be, doing what I believed was right. I love you. I'll see you after the war." He didn't see her after the war. He died on a volcanic ash beach 2 hours after landing. But he died as he lived. A Marine, with his brothers, doing what he believed was right. October 24th, 1942, Guadalcanal. Basilone held Bloody Ridge against 3,000 Japanese soldiers. February 19th, 1945. Iwo Jima. Basilone died attacking a blockhouse so his fellow Marines could advance. He could have stayed home. He earned that right on Bloody Ridge. He went back anyway. That's not just courage. That's something beyond courage. That's John Basilone. Manila John. The Marine who wouldn't quit. Day 2, 100ths. John Basilone. The Marine who chose his brothers over safety.